I will call this meeting to order. It is 4:03 p.m. Let's stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible,
with
with
liberty,
and justice for all. All right. Thank you, Kurt, for the background. All right. Item 1.2, adopt the agenda. You will note that action item 4.7 is approval of the child vaccination requirements related to in-person instructional opportunities. Following our past practice, since we are missing one of our board members, I believe it's wise to table this again due to the magnitude of the impact of a potential decision related to this. And it's important that all 5 board members be able to participate in that decision. So like a motion that reflects tabling for 4.7, and everything else is okay.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept the agenda with 4.7 being tabled until next meeting or a time when we're all together, all 5 board members.
Is there a second?
I second tabling the agenda item 4.7 until we can all be together.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Bianca?
Aye.
Rosemary?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
And I also approve, motion carries. So did you get that, Linda? Was that clear? Okay. Item 2, consent agenda. Quite a few in here. And just as a matter of course, it's in our packet and it's not stated on the agenda, but I'd just like to state that a trustee can have an item removed from the consent agenda and given individual consideration for action as a regular action item. An administrator or a member of the public may request that an item be removed from the consent agenda and given individual consideration for action as a regular agenda item at the pleasure of the board. This is all Brown Act stuff, and typically that nothing is ever removed for additional consideration, and that's the whole point of the consent agenda, that we can quickly get through multiple items all at one time. So item 2.1, consideration of approval of warrants and payroll for Northern United Humboldt Charter School. 2.2, consideration of approval of warrants and payroll for Northern United Siskiyou Charter School, batches 0221, 0307, 0314, 0323, 0328. 2.3, consideration of approval of minutes for the March 10th board meeting. 2.4, consideration of resignation, hires, leaves, and changes of assignments. 2.5, consideration of approval of the Williams Uniform Complaint Quarterly Report for Northern United Humboldt Charter School. 2.6, consideration of approval of Williams Uniform Complaint Quarterly Report for Northern United Siskiyou Charter School. Are there any questions, clarifications, modifications to any of those items in the consent agenda?
I have a question about 2.4
Yes.
on the leaves for Toby Schneider. What was that position, and will there be a return date this year?
Sherry? Or
The
Kurt?
position, she's on the Humboldt side.
Okay.
The position, and Linda, correct me if I'm wrong, the position is a special education aide, or just an instructional aide, special education aide. Yeah, I see your head nodding. It was a special education aide, and the return may be this year. That will be up to, for doctor.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as posted.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Bianca,
Aye.
Rosemary,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
and I also approve. Motion carries. Consent agenda adopted. Item 3, public comments on items not on the agenda. Under this item, the public is invited to address the board regarding items that are not on today's agenda. Please keep your comments concise, brief, and limited to 3 minutes. The board is not allowed under the law to take action on matters that are not on the agenda. Should comments from the public pertain to a charge or complaint against an employee of Northern United Humboldt Charter School or Northern United Siskiyou Charter School, the board encourages the speaker to utilize the school's written complaint procedures to pursue the matter. The public will have an opportunity to comment on all agenda items as those are heard. Are there any public comments? Nope. Okay. Moving on. Action items to be considered. 4.1 is important for us to
Mary?
proceed. Yes.
Did you call the meeting to order officially and give me a time?
Yes, I did. 4:02.
Thank you.
You're welcome. 4.1, findings regarding teleconferencing pursuant to board resolution S2022-1 adopted March 10th, 2022. Consider adopting findings that current circumstances meet the requirements of Assembly Bill 361. 1, current state of emergency is ongoing, and 2, meeting in person would present imminent risk to the health or safety of attendees. The resolution is in our packet.
And then I emailed out the signed one for everybody to have.
Yes.
You guys might remember last week, it kind of dawned on me, oh, the signed one should have been in the packet so you could reference it. But then the packet for this board meeting went out the same day as that meeting. So already the unsigned went out. So when I got ready to send you guys the signed one, I realized we didn't even have a signed one because we haven't been in person to get Jerry to sign it. So anyway, I had him sign it today. That's why it just went out to you this afternoon.
Okay, we need a motion that indicates we've find the findings to still be in place to conduct our Zoom meeting. Is that best way to word it, Sherry? Okay.
That those findings, that our findings are that those conditions still exist
Still
that
exists,
allow
right?
us to do this.
Right. Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the finding that the situation is still in effect.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Bianca,
Aye.
Rosemary,
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
I also approve. So motion carries and we can proceed in our Zoom board meeting. 4.2, approval of nursing services MOU, Memorandum of Understanding between SCOE and Northern United Siskiyou Charter School. SCOE is Siskiyou County Office of Education. See the information in the packet, Sherry?
Yeah, there's
Want it?
really nothing else to add other than the fact that we contract every year with the county office to offer nursing services. And that's for things like when you have a student who qualifies for an IEP, part of that process is an evaluation from a nurse. And so that's part of what they do. But it's all kinds of other things too, like, helping with like scoliosis screening or vaccination status questions or hearing screenings, I don't know, miscellaneous EpiPen training, all
Sure.
kinds of different stuff that we utilize nurses for.
And currently, they just did all of our staff in Siskiyou for TB risk assessments.
Excellent. A very valuable service. And as Sherry did say, it's something we've done before. It's sort of a routine item that comes before us. So are there any questions or comments? If there are none, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the MOU between SCO and NUSCS for nursing services.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Bianca,
Aye.
Rosemary,
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
I also approve, motion carries. All right, 4.4, certification of 4.3, approval of employer contribution towards health benefits. You can see that in our packet information, there's a carryover from last month and the addition of the new information as requested. Appreciate that very much, Sherry, and your team. So I'll let you take it.
Thank you,
away.
Linda. Yeah, so we included, you guys remember last week we talked about that it looked really good in terms of the schools being able to contribute toward the full amount for Spruce. And so we thought we would take a look at Oak too, which is the next plan up. And so we've included that in your packet. And while it still makes our reserve, within a reasonable percentage, it does put both schools actually into deficit spending. And one of the other things I wanted to mention that is, maybe you're not getting the full picture in looking at this is because this, when you look at what the reserve ending is, the dollar amount and the percentage, what that doesn't include is any the salary increases that would happen next year with staff. So that's just basing it on what staff currently make this year, not the increase that would happen for next year. So we're still recommending that Spruce plan is what is covered over Oak. And if anybody has any questions about anything.
Well, good. Thank you very much for that explanation. Are there any questions or comments for Sherry and her team? Everybody feel comfortable with?
Hey, Jerry.
Yes. Go ahead.
No, I just said, are you okay? You had a grimace on your face. I was worried
Oh,
about.
I had to go get my power supply to plug in my laptop, and there we go. Is everybody, are there any comments, or is everybody comfortable with accepting the recommendation, which from our last meeting was the spruce plan tier 3 to take the approach to zero that out for anybody that wants to go opt for the spruce plan. You can see that we're still left with a healthy reserve, which even with salary increases is still would be well above our authorizer's minimum requirement. So it's pretty much a no-brainer, unless everybody sees it differently than I do. So, I mean, if there's no comment, then is there a motion? No need to drag it out.
I'll make a motion to approve the employer contribution towards health benefits as presented.
Is that clear to you, Linda?
I am going to kind of change it and say to approve employer contribution where the employer pays everything for the spruce plan.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
I second the motion to pay 100% of the spruce plan tier 3 option.
Very good. All right. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Bianca,
Aye.
Rosemary,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
and I also approve. Motion carries. So very good job. Thank you. Thank you to the board. And once again, we've stepped up to the plate for our employees. All right. 4.4, the certification of corrective action plan for the year ended June 30, 2021 for Northern United Siskiyou Charter Schools audit.
So you guys
Sherry,
remember we had the audit for Humboldt, I don't know, last month maybe, and there were no audit findings. And almost we can say the same thing for Siskiyou. There were no audit findings other than the fact that we asked for an extension. You may remember we actually asked for an extension for both Humboldt and Siskiyou because we weren't sure if they were going to be done in time. Humboldt, the auditor, was able to get it done in time, so there was no audit finding. Siskiyou, unfortunately, he wasn't able to get it done in time. And even when you ask for an extension and it is granted, that is still warrants a finding. So we had one finding, and it was, because it was late. So this item is actually just certifying the corrective action plan. Whenever you have a finding in an audit, you have to have a plan for how you're going to correct it. And so, our correction on this is kind of straightforward. We'll, work to try to have a timely audit in the future. And so we just have to certify that that is going to be our corrective action. When you write a corrective action, it has to say who's responsible and the timeline and then what it is you're going to do. And so that's what you have for this item. The next item is actually just approving the audit, but this one is just kind of certifying that corrective action.
Are there any questions or comments for Sherry?
Mm-mm.
Okay, hearing none. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the certification of corrective action plan for the year ending June 30th, 2021 for NU Siskiyou's audit.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Bianca,
Aye.
Rosemary,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
and I also approve. Motion carries. Item 4.5, approval of the financial statements with independent auditors report for fiscal year 2020, 2021 for Northern United Siskiyou Charter School. Sherry?
This is the full report, the full audit report. And you'll actually see at the very end of it is that finding that we just spoke about and that corrective action. And just like for Humboldt, the auditor gives each board member like a bound book of the audit. You have a copy of it in your packet. But so I have these for everybody. Kirk, I'm mailing Melissa and Bianca's to you so that when you see them next, you can distribute those. And then for the Humboldt board members, next time you're around, next time I see you, I will give you yours.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments for Sherry?
Mm-mm.
All right. If there are none, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the financial statements with the independent auditors report for fiscal year 2020, 2021 for NUSCS.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Bianca,
Aye.
Rosemary,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
I also approve. Motion carries. 4.6, approval of meal counting and meal payment collection procedure. Sherry?
This one is pretty straightforward too. This is actually a policy that you guys just adopted just a couple months ago. It was in the administrative policy manual. So that was the last one of the series of 3 manuals, policy manuals you guys approved. But you might remember that we spoke about, we had our cafeteria audit just ended a couple, like 2 weeks ago or something. Well, it didn't result in any kind of finding or anything, but our auditor reached out, the cafeteria auditor reached out and asked for a copy of our meal counting and payment collection procedure, which we had, but she asked to ensure that the non-discrimination statement was included. So it starts kind of at the very end of the document. Everything prior to that was already in there when you approved it this last time. We just added the non-discrimination statement to the end of this document. And essentially, this is a federal government requirement that this non-discrimination statement be in all paperwork related to our cafeteria program, because that's a federal program. And so we thought we should go ahead and add that in here now. And so we're asking that you guys approve this policy with this non-disclosure statement in there. It's more than a statement, several paragraphs.
Yeah. Thank you, Sherry.
Would this be considered a revision?
Yeah, which is why I didn't put it in as like a first reading and a second reading, because that was the only difference. It's not a new policy or anything.
Revision or an update to the previous policy that we adopted. Okay, is there a motion?
I'll motion to approve the meal counting and meal payment collection procedure revision, or whatever we're calling it.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Bianca,
Aye.
Rosemary,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
I also approve. Motion carries. All right, moving on to reports. 5.1, enrollment and attendance report. You can see the information, the data in the packet. Terry, would you like to make any comment? Or anybody make a comment?
I don't think I have anything else to add other than, it always looks like it's, like a month, running a month behind because of the way our attendance as an independent study school runs. Instead of taking daily attendance, we take attendance by the month. And so the month ending March 25th, it was the end of the attendance period, but then teachers have, I think it's 10 days to get their attendance into Roxy, into our database. But this packet goes out before that all kind of gets finalized. So we're always kind of a month behind in this.
Humboldt looks a little, the last 2 months. A lot of children out sick, I assume.
Definitely a lot of low attendance the last couple months for sure.
Yes, that's an observation, Bianca, that I was going to mention as well, that you can see the percentage
Really,
has dropped.
it's really 4 months because 95% is kind of what we shoot for.
Mhm.
So it's been below that for the last 4 months.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? The financial 5.2 financial report for Northern United Humboldt and Northern United Siskiyou charter schools. You can see all the numbers, the data in our packet. Any questions or comments? Is Tammy available to weigh in if necessary? No? Okay. So we move on to 5.3, the director's report. Sherry?
Okay, well, I'm going to it. Just a couple things to mention. So you guys might remember that on the Siskiyou side, our property and liability insurance is Charter Safe, and on the Humboldt side, it's North Coast Schools Insurance Group, JPA. And that organization has decided to no longer offer property and liability to charter schools, effective at the end of this school year. So we've already applied for Humboldt to join with Charter Safe JPA, just as Siskiyou does. And in that process, just kind of preparing for that, it occurred to me that with the North Coast Schools Insurance Group JPA, when there was an activity that a school wanted to do that was considered high risk by them, it was on their list of high risk activities. What that meant is it's not that you couldn't do those activities or there wouldn't be coverage, but your deductible would be much higher. Rather than the regular $1,000 per injury deductible, if you did something in the high risk activity and unfortunately something happened, the deductible would be $25,000 per injury. So those, anytime before we would approve any of those kinds of activities, we always brought them to the board because that's kind of taking this risk of a lot of fiscal, liability. And so with Charter Safe, their high risk activity list deductible is $500 per injury. So not a big financial liability, but I still will be taking those items. I still will bring those items to the board because I think that it's important still to have board approval on anything that's on a high risk activity, even though fiscally it's not something that's necessary to get board approval, but I just still think it's a good idea. So I just wanted to let you guys know that. And if or when next year we, anybody wants to do a field trip or anything that involves that high risk, I'll, probably remind you of that at the time, what the deductible is. But anyway, I just thought I would give you a heads up on that. Another thing that I just wanted to mention is we had a visit from Janice Lorenzo, our liaison from Humboldt County Office of Ed. She came, gosh, was that last week, to do her, the authorizer oversight, the official authorizer oversight visit. And in that process, one of the things she does is looks through like personnel records to make sure that we're doing things like, doing the DOJ, Department of Justice background checks, that we're up to date on our TB risk assessments, just all of the things that we should be doing, among lots of other things. But during that, she brought up, mandated trainings, like, mandated reporter and sexual harassment training. She's making sure that we're doing those things too. Well, during the process of our conversation with her, she mentioned that best practices is also having board members do that. The Department of Justice, because they're considered volunteers, and all of our volunteers are supposed to be fingerprinted and have that DOJ background check. And then the sexual harassment, because sexual harassment is one of the ones that anybody in a managerial or oversight capacity is supposed to do. There's all teachers have to do a sexual harassment one, but there is one that's specifically for kind of, managerial supervisory staff. So those are the ones that she said the Humboldt County Office of Ed board does both of that, the DOJ and the sexual harassment. So I wanted to put that out there to you. I do think that we have definitely sent you guys the link for the sexual harassment training. It's an online training. I think we've done that before, sent that to you through Keenan Safe Schools. But anyway, we'll be doing that again. So when you see that, you'll understand why we're doing that. And then in terms of the Department of Justice fingerprinting, that's a live scan process. And we have a form for that has a number, an identifying number on it for our school that is linked to us so that the results come to us. And that's on the Humboldt side. On the Siskiyou side, all of our fingerprinting actually goes through Siskiyou County Office of Ed. And so that's kind of a separate form. So we have a choice of how to do that. We could either have the Siskiyou board members do it through Siskiyou County Office of Ed, or we could give them the same form that we're going to be giving the Humboldt board members, the live scan form that links it to Humboldt. So I don't know if any of you guys have a preference or not. It doesn't really, the difference is if you do it through Siskiyou County Office of Ed, they get the results and they notify us of anything that would come up now or in the future. If you do it through using the Humboldt identifier, we get the results and we get notified of anything that comes up in the future. So that's kind of the main difference.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments on that particular topic?
And let me say, it doesn't matter which we choose. It's not like the Siskiyou County board members would have to come to Humboldt to do the live scan. You get to do a live scan, at any like police department or whatever. So even if we give you the form where we do it through Humboldt, you don't have to come to Humboldt to do it. You would still go to the same, your neighborhood police or whatever. And we can give you the list of locations where that can be done. Well, if there's not a big preference, then probably we'll just do the Humboldt identifier number so that all the results come through us, and we will be on the lookout for that form. We'll get those forms to you. Okay, so that's that. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, two other things. One is, you guys may know that universal transitional kindergarten is being phased in. And what that means is that in a few years from now, anybody who turns 4 as of June 1st will get to come to transitional kindergarten. So in other words, it's this entire new grade before kindergarten that is specifically for 4-year-olds. This already exists. Transitional kindergarten already exists, but right now it's only for kids whose birthday falls within a certain window. They have to turn 5 within a certain window. That window is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, so that eventually it's going to be to where all 4-year-olds, regardless of when their birthday is, will be able to come to school. And schools have the option of not phasing that in, but starting it immediately if they wanted to. So what that would mean is, starting next school year, we could choose to take all 4-year-olds, regardless of when they're going to turn 5 next year. But schools don't get the funding for those students until they turn 5. So if it's a student who is 4 and doesn't turn 5 until the last day of school next year, like say June 15th, we wouldn't get funding for that student all year long. However, some schools are choosing to do that anyway, because it doesn't really take a lot of additional resources to serve those students, because you're already paying for the teacher who takes the students in the window that we do get funding for next year. So if you're already paying for a teacher, you already have the room, it really doesn't matter how many kids are in there. There's not a big increase in cost. There are some, but it's not a big increase in cost. And so some schools are choosing to do that because with the idea that once they're enrolled with you, chances are they're going to stay with you. And because of the benefit of having that year, essentially it's like a year of preschool, but in a public school setting. So having that education for those 4-year-olds sets them up for a better path moving into kindergarten and then first grade and so on. And so, like I said, some schools are making the decision to do that. The state is giving all schools money to prepare for this. Over the course of the next 3 years, each year, every school is getting $50,000 to prepare for this, to implement and roll this out. If we decided to not phase it in, like over the 3 years of implementation, if we decided to do it all next year, have all the 4-year-olds come next year, we still will get that implementation $50,000 each of those 3 years. And that money can go toward supporting the program, so that even though you're not getting the full funding for all those students, we are getting that $50,000 every year. In addition to that, the county office has gotten, the Humboldt County Office of Ed has received 2 pretty substantial grants to help schools implement this as well, including money for staffing, because this actually requires additional coursework for teachers. So somebody who has been teaching kindergarten isn't necessarily qualified to teach TK. It takes some additional early childhood education units. And so there's money available for that and lots of other things as well. But the person in charge of it at Humboldt County Office of Ed came and met with me this week about this rollout, this implementation, just talking about what our plans were. Oh, speaking of plans, we do have to present a plan in June. You'll see a TK plan in June. It's a very loose plan about like how we think we're going to implement this. Are we going to roll it in? Are we, phase it in? Are we going to do it right away? What is that going to look like for us? So you'll see that plan in June. But so she came to talk with me this week about it. And what she let me know is there not a single other school district in the Eureka area is going to do full implementation next year. They're all going to phase it in. So Eureka City Schools has decided to phase it in. Freshwater has decided to phase it in. Cutton School District has decided to phase it in. And she said she's been getting calls every day from parents asking if there were any local schools who are going to do full implementation next year. And, you know, you can understand why. Childcare is extremely expensive. And if, you know, a parent has an opportunity to have their 4-year-old go to a public school for free, they would want to do that, not to mention, you know, the setting them up for success in their upcoming years. So it's something that we have started having a conversation about, whether or not we want to fully implement it next year. It requires, like I said, a teacher with the appropriate credentials, which we do already have. We have several actually. It would require space, a room, materials, you know, a variety of things. And while that HCOE person was here, I, you know, showed her some different areas to, you know, see what she thought about it. But anyway, it's something that we're considering and we're talking about. We actually have an admin meeting tomorrow where we'll talk about it further. But I just wanted to give you a heads up that this is something that we're thinking about doing. And I'll probably talk about it again next month in May, and then for sure in June, you'll see the plan. So anyway, is there anything anybody wanted to say about that? Any input or thoughts?
I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Would the pre-TKers be in with the regular TKers and the kinders?
No, what we're thinking about doing is having a TK only specific program, meaning they wouldn't be with kindergartners. It would be all the TKers, so all the 4-year-olds in this area, in the Eureka area together in one. And we would advertise it as such, like a specific TK program.
Mm-hmm.
And if this is something we are going to do, we will advertise it and we would get the room set up immediately, because you guys all know as parents, if you were considering putting your 4-year-old someplace, you would want to see the facility and you would want to see it looking good before you committed to having your kids go there.
Exactly.
So it would be a TK specific room. So like, for example, right now where Cutton Learning Center has TK and K combined, that wouldn't be happening. That would just be K, and all the TKs would be together in a different space.
All right.
That's what we're thinking right now anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Where is the Siskiyou site at in their considerations?
So because Siskiyou does not have the same grant opportunities, like Siskiyou County Office of Ed did not apply for the same grants that Humboldt County Office did. Siskiyou is getting the $50,000 that we get each year for implementation, but not the additional funds for getting the teacher credential, all of the other things that HCOE got. And so that one's kind of interesting, because on the Siskiyou side, you know how I said that we'll be writing a plan and you'll be seeing it in June. Well, on the Siskiyou side, Siskiyou County Office of Ed is actually writing a plan for the entire county that everybody will be presenting, because everyone's kind of doing the same thing, which is phasing it in over the 3 implementation years rather than bringing it all in at once.
Understood.
Anything else? Amy, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just curious about the, because right now at Cutton, the TKK and first are all together. So would you find another room somewhere, or how would that?
That's still to be determined. It might actually happen at the building at where my office is, not across the street. That's one of the things we're looking at, is what space. And that's that's going to be a big factor to decide. Another thing that Cindy Kopp, who is the person who came over from HCOE that's heading this up, talked about is, if in fact we did get a big group of TKers, well, they have to have someplace to go the next year. They have to feed into kindergarten, and do you have the space available for that if you're all of a sudden taking a bunch more TKers? So that's another consideration. So anyway, there's a lot of things to think about. And that's, I just wanted to give you a heads up that this is a potential, and we're going to be working on some of these details over the next couple months to decide if that's something we want to do. And then the last thing I think I wanted to talk about was June board meeting dates. So you can just sign me up for Bad Mom of the Year award right now, because when we scheduled our June board meeting dates, it didn't even occur to me that I have a daughter graduating high school on one of those nights. So my youngest is graduating high school on the night of our first June board meeting, which is June 16th. I think I took into consideration our Northern United's graduation date and didn't put it on that, but I didn't take into consideration my own daughter's graduation date, which is June 16th. So we have some choices to make. Either we reschedule that date, or I wouldn't have to be there. You guys could still have the meeting for that day. And then, we have the board meeting the next day, where what we could do, you guys know that the reason there are 2 board meetings in June is because the LCAP and the budget require a public hearing to happen at one meeting and then adoption at the second meeting. Usually what I do is I have all of the stuff that we need for our regular board meeting, including those public hearings on the first one. And then on the second meeting, just the adoption stuff. I could kind of swap that so that the first meeting, all it is the public hearing of those items, the LCAP and the budget. And then the second meeting is, of course, the adoption of those 2 things, but all the other regular business stuff. And then if I wasn't at that first one, it wouldn't be a big deal. Julie and Kirk could present on the LCAPs, and Tammy could present on the budget for the public hearing, answer any questions, and then the adoption would happen the next day. Or we could move the meeting. So those are the kind of things that I have brainstormed about that. So I'm open to suggestions. And if you don't even want to make a decision right now, you don't have to. We could decide in May. But I will say, those meetings are required to be posted in the newspaper. And so we do have to let both county offices know those dates, like now, so that they can be published in the newspaper. So I hate to put it off till May.
Can you remind me what the June dates are?
16th and 17th. So it's Thursday and Friday. And Thursday is my daughter's graduation. So that's why I was thinking, if we wanted to just keep those dates, I could just make that Thursday board meeting just those 2 required public hearings, and the 17th, everything else. Or we change the dates. Like we could do the 14th and the 17th or something like that.
If we were thinking of changing to the following week, though, I'm out of town.
Right. The easiest solution really is to not change the dates, because those are kind of set. But I totally understand if, you feel like it'd be best if I was at that meeting. I get that too. I suppose another thing to do would be moving, well, it probably wouldn't work for people's work schedules. I was going to say moving that meeting up, or, that the one on the 16th, having it, the graduation is at 2. So like having it in the morning or something on the 16th and then the 17th regular time or something. It's just another option.
I'm gonna make a bold statement. You need to be mom all day for your daughter, not just at 2 o'clock. I think personally, just flip-flopping the agenda.
Okay.
What about the week before?
The 9th and 10th.
Did those dates work for Jerry?
I think maybe he's looking at his calendar.
See, if he was sitting next to me, I could elbow him.
Yeah.
Jerry,
Rosemary, scream at him right now.
Jerry,
well, I think that we could probably decide over email and be able to also include our 5th board member.
That's good.
Yeah, that's a good one.
You know what? I'm going to put myself on mute and call Jerry.
My goodness.
I hope he's okay.
He's been nodding off for a while.
we're boring him today.
He's breathing. I mean, you can see.
Yeah,
that
he
he's
is breathing.
Yeah.
I can see him breathing.
He
Maybe
probably doesn't have his phone with him.
you should call Carol. Do you have Carol's number, Sherry?
I do.
I don't know that I do. I'm looking.
I texted
Oh, yeah,
her.
I have it. I'll call her. Okay, I called Carol.
No, thank you. Sorry.
Are you okay, Jerry?
Yes, sorry.
Well, Jerry, we were just discussing the idea of switching our June board meeting date. And I'll just send out, Bianca made a recommendation that I send out an email to the board to discuss a new date. So I'll do that. And I'm done with my report.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I think we're ready for 5.4, the Humboldt report.
Yeah. Northern United Humboldt Charter School Report. You can see it in the packet. It's really quite, I keep saying this all the time, but it's really quite impressive. Any comment, Julie?
Jerry, from here on out, Rebecca is doing the
Okay,
Humboldt report because of my impending retirement. So it's up to Rebecca.
okay.
I think-
It's all there in the report. It was a busy, fun month. The report was lengthy, but I'm glad you enjoyed it.
love having the pictures in color. Makes it
Oh, yeah.
really, not only does it pop, but it just makes it easier to enjoy.
Yes. Any other comments or questions? All right, well, thank you. 5.5 Northern United Siskiyou Charter School. You can, again, you can see it in the packet. You know, the pictures, the information, and so on. Kurt, you want to add anything to that?
No,
Okay. Moving on to the board report 5.6. Anything you want to share, Bianca?
I don't have anything to share.
Okay. Rosemary?
I do have a couple of things. I'd like to go back to the WASC visit, which I think this might be our first official meeting. I don't know, but it was in my notes. A couple of comments I'd like to make. First, kudos to Kirk for providing us with that video. I think that Liz and Julie were very, very pleased. I could hear their enthusiasm when they were reporting out. One thing that Liz had said that I took to heart, she said, everyone is someone. And I think that little comment is going to stick with me for a long time. So overall, thank you. I was very impressed by the basket project that's on display at the county office. Oh my gosh. There were a couple workers that were walking by and had made the comment that every time they stop, they read something else that they had missed the first time walking down the hall. But wow, it was very impressive. Kudos to our kids as well as the adults that were overseeing that project.
Very good. Amy? Anything to share?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Apparently, when I take my right earbud out, I am muted. When I put
No.
it back in, I am unmuted. Who knew?
Yeah.
No, everything looks good. Yeah.
Well, good. Good. I've got the only thing I would say basically pertains to the next board meeting in that. So we'll move on. Next board meeting, 6.1, possible agenda items. Well, one will be the vaccination policy that we'll put on there in hopes that we'll have a full complement of members to discuss and hopefully come up with a policy. Sherry?
One thing I wanted to ask you guys is, do you want me to do a closed session for my evaluation on the May one?
Oh, yes, it's coming up. Thanks for the reminder. Absolutely. That's the time and opportunity to in a closed session environment to be able to, it's a personnel matter, and that's one of the constitutes one of the things that can be done in closed session. So certainly add it.
Quick question, are we going, it wouldn't be in May, but are we going to have to approve the possible TK plan? Come,
In
On-
June. Yeah, it's actually not an approval for whatever reason. I never know why they choose ones that have to be approved and when they don't. It's not an approval, it's a report for some reason. So I have to report out to you in June. But I'd be happy to give you a report on our thinking next month too on that. Do you want me to add that to
Yeah.
possible agenda
I'd
items?
like that too.
Yeah, okay. Perfect.
Anything else? All right. 6/2, the next board meeting date is scheduled for May 12th. It's very possible that I'll be able to, I'm hoping to transition to back to in-person for the board meeting, and so that we won't have to do this Zoom. That's my goal. And I'll find out more next week. So, all right. Any other comments about the next board meeting? All right. At this time, Linda, it is 5:05, and I will adjourn this board meeting. So thank you to everybody.
Thank you
And
all.